Coach, obviously coming off a pair of big wins for y'all, and now in the top 25, I guess, how have you seen the team kind of, bounce back and kind of start, looking forward to the next game, after all the accomplishments of this weekend?
Well, I haven't seen them since we got off the bus Sunday night after returning from Connecticut. Mood was great. We did we accomplished our goal. Went up there, won a trophy, won a championship. That's kind of what we talked a lot about prior to leaving, and then during the actual tournament, they had a much-needed day off yesterday to kind of regroup, take care of their business academically. Only a short week, make sure we tidy up all of that that we need to do, and then have a fresh set of legs and minds here this afternoon, and we'll regroup and start getting ready for the next game.
All right, we'll go behind Steph to Danny P to Coach's left.
Coach, winning that championship, just how much some of those younger guys get to hold a trophy and be able to experience a part of that help them at this stage of their careers?
Again, you'd have to ask them. It's not something that I've asked them, but I can't imagine that it's nothing but a positive experience for them to be a part of a team that, won a championship. Certainly, it's a smaller goal of ours each and every year when we're in one of those tournaments, and it's a tournament format rather than a classic format where it's predetermined opponents, where you have a chance to play in that tournament type of atmosphere, which I prefer because it doesn't happen until the end of the year, and then if you're fortunate enough to play in postseason, so it's hard to simulate. But getting back to your question, I think it can only be a positive thing for us.
We'll go to Paul and then to John in the back.
Any updates on Jaquan and Keyshawn when they may return?
Jaquan has been day-to-day. Probably could have played Sunday in an emergency situation, but really didn't want to put him out there when, he wasn't fully confident. But he's a day-to-day. I can't imagine that he won't be, at least that or better by Friday. It just takes some time with the injury that he sustained. Keyshawn is still, diligently doing his rehab, working with Andrew Kegley, our trainer, who's been excellent with all the injuries that we've sustained. He's been unbelievable with the hours he's put in, and I'll get more of an update this afternoon with him.
And I know you didn't get to see him as much as you wanted to in practice, but back when Tolu was healthy this summer, just kind of describe how that competition was and those battles in practice was between Tolu and Jimmy Bell.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. You're talking about two experienced, veteran, big dudes going at one another, and they did it in such a respectful way. I think both of them knew once they got a feel for one another that they were going to get along well and that they could make each other better. Even though it was competitive, it was from a respectful vantage point. Certainly disappointed, with the situation that happened with Tolu that, they couldn't continue to do that. But hopefully here, come January, that won't be the case anymore. But, it was really fun. I guess it was fun while it lasted.
Chris, having three kind of Power 5 wins and having kind of the start that y'all had this year to obviously start out 5-0, do you think that kind of success this early, if it could translate to confidence to the guys, do you think that could kind of pay dividends for your next few games in terms of, early season success and all that good stuff based on your experience?
Time will tell. You would think so on face value. It's something we talked about a lot heading into the first game of the tournament, that I wanted them to play with that confidence. They were here in this room for a reason. I had a lot of faith in them. I wanted them to play with confidence in themselves, and then at the same time, play with confidence, as a group, as a unit, and have that trust that's connecting through great teams that happens over time. And I thought for the most part, we did that over the weekend, but how that, moves us forward, time will tell. But you would think, like I said, on face value, that would be something that, some of the newer guys would feel good about. And not just, in their own games, but even with trusting what we're trying to do. what we're trying to do as a program with our schemes, with what we're asking them to do on a daily basis. And then, sometimes when they get in the games and then the results come and we show them on video, like, it does work. I know, sometimes it sounds crazy, what we're trying to ask you to do, or it's something new, more probably more like it, more new to them, and everyone raises their eyebrows at new sometimes and change. And when it works, you're lucky and fortunate, because then the buy-in becomes even better.
We'll go to Justin in the front row and then behind him to Benjamin.
Chris, obviously it's your second 5-0 start here at Mississippi State. Just from your perspective, what feels different about where you guys are at this point this year compared to last season?
Haven't thought about it. Last season's over, and certainly, every game, every year, you get experience from it. You can glean from it as you go forward. But in particular to that question, really hasn't crossed my mind. The difference this year is just the injuries. We've had to retool how we played, and I kept saying that in the fall, that the only silver lining was that we had time. We had all that time to tinker with lineups and figure out, how we needed to play without, an all SEC proven guy around the basket that we had, played offense through. And so that was the silver lining. And our staff has done an unbelievable job of coming up with ideas of how we need to play on both ends of the floor. And the guys, that are healthy are getting into the game.
And then Andrew, I think, only played about 15, 20 seconds between those two games this weekend. Just what do you feel is his role right now, and sort of maybe how he's adjusting to what he did with compared to what he did with Marshall last year?
What he did at Marshall is irrelevant, to us. It's a new year, new program. Basketball is a marathon. Basketball seasons are longer than, most, if not all, college sports seasons. And so there's a lot of ups and downs to most seasons, individually and collectively. And, we'll see how the season unfolds. And, there's a lot of time to, have opportunities to get in there and prove yourself. And I know he'll have opportunities going forward.
Coach, you're probably not going to have to do it again until the SEC tournament, but can you say about how your team handled playing on back-to-back days with that second day in a row, especially after falling behind early?
Yeah, the falling behind early wasn't a lot of fun. I felt deja vu. I had witnessed it the day before when they pounced on Rhode Island. It was 22-2, right away. And it's like, whoa. And that went through my brain. Hey, dummy, call a timeout. Let's not get it out of control. And that's not my nature, to be honest with you. I'm not sure I would have if I hadn't witnessed what happened the day before. I'm glad that I had that experience. Even though when I called timeout, it was 8-0, and then it became 11-0, and then it became 15-3. So it's not as if it really turned the tide. But we, watching tape, we just didn't play very well the first 10, 12 minutes of the game. And a lot of the credit needs to go to Northwestern. They did. We were a little flat defensively. They're going to obviously see and hear about that today. I was more surprised when I watched the film than I was in person of how we just didn't play well. We were casual with passing and catching. We had a ton of turnovers the first 10, 12 minutes of the game that were, by the majority of them, unforced, and we just didn't have the same bite to us defensively, and that's disappointing. And certainly glad that, they were able to turn it around and get some momentum heading into the halftime. And then eventually, I thought toward the late stages of the game, our speed and our quickness out front wore them down a little bit. And, the three-pointers were off a little bit down the stretch for them. And but the start of the game was something we need to talk about.
Go back to Steph to coach's left.
Chris, obviously we knew, the talent level Josh had, coming here, but, we've seen him hit some big shots for y'all. I mean, the Northwestern game, he had some big shots there in the second half. Did you see that kind of mentality from him, in the recruiting process, the edge he has, I guess, to kind of hit some big shots late in games, even as a true freshman?
Well, gosh, you score 4,000-plus points, I'd imagine he's hit some big shots a lot. I haven't watched every one of his high school games. I was only around for his senior year. But, I've said all along, you don't really know your recruits until they become your players. until you're with them on a daily basis and you get underneath them, if you will, of how they tick, what they're really all about. Certainly, you try to figure it out in the recruiting process, but there's nothing like being a member of the team for months or years at a time, and you really get an understanding of really what they're about. And I've said it many times already that, he's all about the right stuff. He's got an unbelievable work ethic. He's got a poise. He's got a presence about him that's mature beyond his years. He's just kind of got that it factor to him, and he's showing everybody. He's showing everybody, and I don't think our players are surprised. And if you really pay attention, you can tell they respect him because how excited they get for him when he makes a big shot or goes on a big run. So it's been obviously a big shot in the arm for us.
Got time for a couple more. We'll go to Paul and then Jack here.
Obviously, Nichols gave you guys a pretty good scare last year, and they already knocked off LSU at LSU this year. Just what do you see from them compared to last year? Was it a different team or different looks?
Yeah, different team, different coach, different style even. But like you said, if our kids can't get ready to play, on Friday afternoon with what you just described with the win over LSU and the scare that they gave us last year here, we have enough, information to present to them that we should have their attention. Because when you come off playing back-to-back Power 5 teams and winning like we did, and, you could see them being a little bit of, flat. And so it's our job to make sure they're not, and especially, this early in the season. But they're a really good basketball team. They've had the big win. They're very athletic. They're long. They play really hard. But it's going to be a challenge for us. We're going to see a lot of zone more than likely. They employ a matchup type zone that is similar to what Southern Miss ran against us. So we've had a little bit of experience against it, but it's going to be a good matchup for us.
Obviously, it's kind of a deeper backcourt than you had last season. Hubbard and Trey Ford giving you a lot of minutes. I guess how have you kind of continued to just deal with the minutes output just between the 5 guards that you have?
Yeah, it's a work in progress. It's nice to have options. When you stand up and think about who you're going to put in next. I've had many years where it's a one or two step bench walk, or now we can walk 4 or 5 steps and have different options down there. So it's a lot more fun as a coach when you got options, and depending on the time and score and the rhythm of the game of who you want to put in there next. But it'll all play out. I've been doing this long enough to know. Unfortunately or fortunately, stuff happens. And, you want to have that depth for when those moments come, and you want to have all your players prepared and ready for the moment when their moment comes. So we'll see how it unfolds as the year moves on.
Justin, you can wrap us up in the front.
Just going back to Trey Ford, he's cooled off a little bit since Chicago. Is that something that he's just got to shoot through those struggles, or is there anything that can be done to maybe get him better shots or get him going a little bit more?
Yeah, he's got to make shots when he's open, and that's what happens sometimes over the course of a season, and it was probably too much too soon. That was a heck of a outburst in game 1. I know we didn't expect him to do that every single game, and hopefully the fan base understands that that's not realistic for anyone to come out and make 4 or 5 threes in their college debut and sustain that type of shot-making ability. But we got a lot of confidence in him, and I know he hasn't lost any confidence. And I thought a big moment for him is he got jacked pretty good in that game. I don't know how it played out on TV, but there was blood all over the floor when he inadvertently got hit by Josh Hubbard's elbow. And I would thought he was done, for the rest of the day. And his stuff was pretty messed up, and he was ready. He was ready to go back in, and he went back in, and I thought that showed a lot of courage and toughness to himself, to his teammates, and to our coaching staff.